There are a number of things that I've been able to do that have allowed me to acquire a great deal of knowledge and experience. And I totally reject out of hand that you have to be a political person in order to be wise and to know how to do things.
Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson touting his much criticized lack of political experience as actually being an asset. And as it turns out, poll numbers indicate that it is indeed an asset. Joining us now for a look at those prime numbers, our Newsmax contributor, Morgan Thompson. Morgan?
Thank you, JD. That's true. And Dr. Carson also went on to say in a recent fundraising email, I have never voted for a budget we could not afford. I've never voted to raise the debt limit. I've never voted to raise taxes. And I have never promised the lobbyist anything for a donation. And voters seem to agree with him. According to a recent Quinnipiac poll, Dr. Carson tied for first place with 4 other GOP candidates. The other candidates were Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, Mike Huckabee, and Marco Rubio. With these 5 candidates neck and neck, and more candidates likely to announce, there's no clear frontrunner for the Republican presidential primary.
So a big crowd running in the GOP, but Morgan, what about the Democrats?
Well, JD, Hillary Clinton still leads the Democratic race by a wide margin with 57% of voters favoring her. But it's important to note her favorability is slipping. She lost 3 points since the last poll on April 23rd, and many of those polled believe her to be untrustworthy. Now, in a head-to-head race, she still defeats all of the GOP candidates individually.
And there is a long time between now and the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. I want to return to the Republican side and the whole Ben Carson situation. How does someone so new to politics garner the same approval ratings as experienced political candidates?
Well, that's one of the things that makes him so exciting, because name recognition is generally everything in politics. And Dr. Carson is right up there with a lot of the more experienced politicians, so that's pretty exciting. One of the things is that he's very popular among conservative voters. In fact, he currently ranks #1. Another thing that's interesting to note is his We the People campaign message seems to be resonating with a lot of Americans. They kind of see him as one of us rather than more of a politician.
Yeah, as a private citizen, and not just any private citizen, a trained and very accomplished brain surgeon. So that old joke about, hey, this is not brain surgery, to run the country, you got to be serious about it, and it'll be worth watching. And Morgan, we appreciate the update. We'll continue to keep our eye on Dr. Carson in the days ahead. Thanks very much. Now, let's talk about what's on your mind, what you've sent me via social media in terms of your own commentary. And guess what? Our first comment concerns Dr. Ben Carson. It comes from Mike W., and he writes, Dr. Carson is a presidential contender who is proud and not apologetic about his faith. He knows that America's problems are spiritual and fiscal. God bless Dr. Ben Carson. Our second comment comes from Robert, who's writing in on the topic of the NSA's bulk data collection. He writes, if they're going to keep track of our calls, I believe Congress and the White House ought to be kept track of also. Appreciate your perspective on that, Robert. And finally this evening, a comment from Maddie, who watched last night's program, reacting to the comments I offered on Beau Biden, the 46-year-old son of the vice president who passed away over the weekend from brain cancer. Maddie writes, nice tribute to Beau Biden. That's really sad. Thanks, Maddie. And it is another reminder to all of us of just how precious life is. And it's important to remember that at times like these, we abandon partisan positions and disagreements to rally around the power of prayer and support, remembering the human equation and the challenges confronting Vice President Biden and his family as they remember the life of Beau Biden. We thank you for your comments. We'd welcome them in the days ahead. Here's how you can send them. You can send them via email to me, Newsmax Prime at newsmaxtv.com. You can also use Facebook or Twitter and go to our website, newsmax.com/comments. That'll do it for those you see and those you don't. J.D. Hayworth saying, stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.